A Shalom Akim Shabbat Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, teaching us the truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai, and back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I have it on the screen here. Just bear with me on this. It says, I have a vineyard, but I might not gather grapes. Right? So what do I mean by that? Is that, I have a vineyard, but may not gather grapes. Meaning, a vineyard, I'm kind of using a vineyard as an example. And then I borrowed this from the 2nd Ezra 16 to kind of title this lesson, in the mindset of, okay, I might have, for example, like say if you're a brother or you have, for example, like maybe a side hustle, maybe you got some kind of Airbnb, maybe you have some sort of like, other kind of business, right? Because, we're subject to payments, we're still in captivity and so on and so forth, right? But I'm titling it this way to kind of establish a mindset behind this, for brothers who, kind of have these like little hustles and side endeavors and so on and so forth, Uber, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, whatever it is, right? Because we're, I guess, kind of hustling, so on and so forth. It's a hustle and bustle type of society that we live in, right? But the point I'm kind of making this is, there's a mindset of essentially fleeing from it, in due time, because, because in this week, we've had a lot of interesting plays being put forth, by the Lord, using these kings, for example, using, Donald Trump. He's essentially implementing, he's pulling in, like certain key people to essentially establish that that MOTB, that grain of rice, right? So, for example, he's had Elon Musk, and also he's now having this other guy named Dr. Mehmet Oz, right? Normally, he was a very popular TV celebrity doctor, and I believe he had his own show. But I remember even years ago, before I was in the truth, he used to come on when Oprah used to have her own show years ago, and then he would talk about certain health topics and so on and so forth. So once Oprah's in the mix as well, because he used to do that, he used to go on Oprah's show a lot. Jake is definitely going to be involved, right? Right. But the point is, I'm using a vineyard in the sense of having a sense of and establishing a bit of like commerce, because that's what really when you have like a vineyard, for example, there's a sense of, okay, a person's going to use this to, okay, you're going to make, wine, you're going to actually, produce maybe non-alcoholic drinks, grapes. As a matter of fact, let me just Google it just so I can, share this just for edification. Just for edification here. Just bear with me. Okay, the agricultural aspect of winemaking. Vineyards are located in regions with favorable climates, soil conditions, and support growth and grapevines. So essentially, you kind of use it to essentially, people use it to, make wine. That's the point I'm trying to make. And there's a commerce, there's money involved, right? So I'm using that, in a parabolic sense for some of the things that we do, right? Because we have our own, a lot of us have our own, maybe side hustle going on, right? But the mindset is, we don't expect it to essentially save us in these times. We don't expect it to essentially, be somebody who's going to, build some great city or some great fancy business with CEOs and what's the word I'm looking for? Have we're going to own the neighborhood and so on and so forth. Like, we're not expecting to do these things with the initiatives that we have. This is just for a time. As a matter of fact, let me get this. Just bear with me. So that's 7. Just bear with me on this. Okay, First Corinthians 7 verse 31, and it says, "For they that use the world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away," right? So that's really the mindset. We're just using the world at the time, but all these things are slowly starting to fade away. I remember I was at work and there's this guy that I work with, and he has he's also an Uber driver, and I made this joke. We were talking one time about because Tesla right now they're having all these different robots, right? And I made this joke and I said, man, these robots might take your job, man. And he laughed it off, but personally, that's kind of what I see in the spirit of where things are going, as time progresses under this new administration in America, right? Has seen a lot of these robots in your everyday life and infrastructure would be the norm, right? So what's going to happen? It's going to cause a lot of people to essentially, be laid off, and technology is going to be the norm, and they really want to put that technology and kind of consolidate it and condense it into your right hand or your forehead, pursuant to Revelation 13 and 16, right? So we know that's the moves that's being made right now under this current administration. But back to the topic of the lesson, that's really the point here. You might have an initiative or some kind of side hustle, but you don't essentially put all your time and energy into it. You do what you have to do, yes, but you don't, there's a spirit of I might have to, there'll be a spirit on, that there's a spirit on you to essentially flee from it, when when the time comes, right? Because you can't buy and sell without actually having that grain of rice. That's really the point I'm trying to convey here, right? Let's see, let's get okay, this is Micah chapter 2, verse 10, and it says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction," right? And that's true, because, and there's just other facets to this that, we're slowly, being destroyed, if you really think of it, because, all these different things, because we're living under an unrighteous king, a base man, you have different ways of being destroyed. For example, you go home, you turn on the, you go to take a shower, you turn on the water has chemicals in it. There's chemicals in the air. There is, they push forth a certain type of alphabet lifestyle upon the television, right? So there's not enough, you can't watch something without something, essentially offending you. There's multiple different ways that we're honestly and constantly being attacked and being destroyed, right? So, and this is something our people don't understand. They think that, essentially they think that they don't have an enemy, right? And that is, you can't dodge a punch you don't see coming, right? And kind of people are just walking around and, completely unaware of what's going on, right? And understanding that because they don't know who they are, they don't know who their enemy is, and they don't know how their enemy is fighting, right? Because, they're walking into enemy territory, without actually being illuminated. And the scriptures call for that. Scriptures call for, turn thee, O Jacob, that thou mayest be illuminated. There's nothing wrong with being illuminated in righteousness, right? The Lord is showing us what's going on, in these times with these prophecies, who the enemies are and what the enemy is actually doing, right? So we're not, like the scriptures talk about, again, we're not ignorant to Satan's devices, right? And we see one being put forth and put place right now, right? So let me not go too off the topic, And and let me go to Second Ezra 16, right? Just to kind of Salakia. I kind of have a tendency to ramble sometimes. Um, I sincerely, pray that this is edifying. Okay, let me just go to. Just bear with me. Okay. So let's see. This is Second Ezra 16. It says, I'll start at verse 40, and it says, O my people, hear my word, and make you ready to thy battle. And in those evils, be even as pilgrims upon the earth. And pilgrim is somebody, when you go into the etymology of it, it says somebody traveling to a holy place, right? So that kind of also backs up what I just read earlier, because, we understand that, this environment is not our rest, right? It says, he that selleth, oh, let me get that in the GNT also. Just bear with me on this. Okay, I'll read it in the GNT. It says, verse 41, it says, merchants must not expect to make a profit from what they sell. They must be ready to run from their lives. Their customers must expect to lose whatever they buy. Whoever builds a house should not plan to live in it. Farmers should not expect to harvest their crops or pick their grapes, right? And that's kind of the point I was trying to make, trying to convey here. Okay, you might have, you might be selling hoodies, right? For example, and, you have some nice hoodies on it. You got some nice material, 100% cotton maybe. But, at some point, there's going to be a time to essentially, flee away from it, right? I kind of, drop the business, so to speak. And then, it's because, we know that the times are evil. We know that these times are very, very evil, right? And as things progress, personally, I think personally, there's going to be, well, like the scriptures say, there's going to be a lot of sedition, right? And, when it comes to, this, in this new administration being in office, personally, I was also thinking that a guy like Donald Trump, he caused a huge rift between a lot of those EU nations the last time he was in administration, and and so I'm kind of curious how these things are going to go. On top of that, you had when it was earlier in the Biden administration, during the Biden administration, you also had that situation with the pipeline that ended up screwing over a lot of those EU nations, right? So personally, those two things I find is a catalyst to what's going to happen, with those nations disliking the whore, like it says in Revelation 17, right? So, all these things, just being mindful of, and especially in these times, right? Don't need to go a little off topic, but that's the point. Really, is that we don't have the expectation of essentially building some conglomerate business, or buying the block like a lot of these rappers like to do, or trying to clean up the neighborhood and all this kinds of stuff, right? We have the understanding of fleeing from these times, right? Because the days are evil, right? So I read verse 43, and it says farmers should not expect to harvest their crops or pick their grapes, right? So that's really what kind of inspired the mindset of this lesson, really and truly, because Although, okay, we're not farmers per se, we all have, a lot of us brothers, in the ministry have their own side hustle or whatever it is that they're doing, some alcohol or Uber, DoorDash, skip the dishes, whatever it is, Airbnb maybe. And those types of things are essentially making us money, to essentially, because, money is a defense, of course, right? I'm not knocking the importance of it. The point is we don't expect to receive, salvation, through it, right? And that's what a lot of our people do when you really think of it in these times, because people might, a lot of our people they're into like Bitcoin and crypto and all these different electronic currencies, and are actually not seeking the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai while he may be found, and calling upon him while he's near, right? You still have apostles and prophets speaking on the highways and byways, right? Proverbs 1, wisdom crieth without, and she crieth, excuse me, to roughly paraphrase, in the chief place of concourse. You have, them there, telling Jake to essentially turn back to the Lord, but, Jake is going to mock, scoff, and do this and do that, until that adversity actually comes down on their neck, right? Verse 44, it says, those who marry expect not to have children, and those who don't marry but live, and those who don't marry must live as if they have been widowed, right? So because verse 45, here's a kicker. It says anything that is done will be useless. Right? Because it's just we just do these things as to keep the bills, keep things at bay, maintain our living situation, right? And that's assuming we're living, because we're really not truly, living per se. Let me go to, okay. Let me go to Luke. I just want to read this. Okay, just bear with me. So that's really the point of the lesson, really, is just to communicate and convey a certain type of mindset, right? Just to flee from it, because we don't expect, essentially salvation from it. The scriptures say that riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness can deliver from death, right? So as a matter of fact, I'll end off with that. So this is Luke chapter 12. This is verse 15, and I'll read down. And it says, and he said unto them, Yahushua speaking, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of things which he possesseth. And he spake this parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will bestow all my fruits and my goods. Verse 19, it says, I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. So this individual here had a lot of substance, had a lot of product. He had a lot of dough, stacked up. Right? He had a lot of like, I guess you can call it like stuff that's mass produced. I don't want to say that word, but you know what I mean. To essentially, to drive in, more business. Right? And it says, verse 19, it says, and I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, be merry, excuse me. Verse 20, but the Most High Yahweh said unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then uh, who shall those things be which thou hast provided, right? And if you really think about it, when a lot of our people, go into this industry, go into these different industries, like, I'll just use Michael Jackson as an example. You know, they leave behind so much substance that, that substance barely, a very small portion of it goes towards either their family, or it gets repossessed or redistributed by the government, and they die having nothing, passed on, nothing. Their life essentially has just become like a vapor, right? And like a when you think about it, you blow on a glass, like say you blow your breath onto like a window, and you see the window gets a little fogged up, and then immediately after a couple seconds it just clears up. So that's pretty much the life of Jake in this society, and Jake thinks that they can seek salvation through these things. That's Jake's mindset. That is Jake's problem, right? They're essentially they try to circumvent the Lord and try to circumvent the curses, right? Verse 20, verse 21, and it says, so is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich towards Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? So, he laid up a lot of treasure. That's his mistake. He laid up a lot of essentially treasure towards, this business, and he didn't lay up enough treasure or have a rich relationship with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? Because in those times, that's all we're going to rely on. That's all we're going to have. There's another precept that's coming to my mind. First Peter's 4. Okay, First Peter's 4:7, and it says, "But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore and watch unto prayer. And above all things, have fervent charity amongst yourselves, for charity hath covered a multitude of sins," right? So it shows, the mindset, of, what it's like, to actually have, riches, stored up for us, right? That, that can't, rust or moth can't get in, or it can't corrupt, essentially, because in those times, that's all we're going to have, right? We're not going to have a safe walking around with all these bars of gold in it. And that's another trend too. A lot of these, what do you call those people? Those investors, they like to invest in gold and silver. I got a precept for them. Even our people too. Because, you need to have some kind of knowledge of how to actually apply and what you can use that gold for. And in times to come, with the love of many waxing cold, why would you be walking around with a bunch of gold on you anyway? You know what I'm saying? You just make yourself a target. Zephaniah 1:18, and it says, "Neither their gold nor their silver shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land shall be devoured by fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land," right? So, we know that these nations are going to go to war, and they're going to completely, these other nations like Russia, even their own allies as well, they're going to engulf this, America with fire, right? So anyways, that's pretty much the point, having a business, it's for the time, it's temporary, we do it to get by, and essentially, there's a mindset of not having all of our I guess our minds super invested in it, right? To the point where you're gonna rely on this to grant you salvation, right? So that's really much the point I kind of wanted to convey in this lesson, right? So I sincerely pray that this was edifying. I'd just like to give our praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.